Good day, everyone. This is Mark Vella, and you're listening to Headline News. Trump lifts travel restrictions on Europe and Brazil, but maintains ban for China and Iran. President Donald Trump issued a proclamation on January 18th, lifting the CCP virus travel ban for most of Europe, the United Kingdom, Ireland, and Brazil, while retaining travel restrictions on China and Iran. The move was opposed by Biden's spokesperson, who said the incoming administration would block the order from being implemented. Prior to that, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, issued an order that requires all overseas travelers to the U.S. must provide proof of negative COVID CCP virus. The order takes effect on January 26th. The Trump administration noted that the U.S. was able to open travel restrictions to countries such as Europe and Brazil with cooperation of the outbreak prevention and control centers in those countries, and that, in the case of China and Iran, restrictions will not be opened due to their lack of transparency and lack of cooperation with the United States. In response to the statement, Biden's spokesperson and incoming press secretary, Jen Psaki, said that Biden would block Trump's order. With the pandemic worsening and more contagious variants emerging around the world, this is not the time to be lifting restrictions on international travel, Jen Psaki said in a statement on Twitter. Psaki did not mention whether the Biden administration would make adjustments to the travel bans on China and Iran. Before taking office, the Biden team had announced that it would reverse some of the Trump administration's current policies on Inauguration Day, including lifting the travel ban on nations posing a terror threat to the United States, rejoining the Paris Climate Accord, and imposing a mask mandate on federal property and interstate travel, most of which would not require congressional action to implement. Pentagon confirms FBI involvement in D.C. National Guard investigation. On Monday, January 18th, the Pentagon confirmed that the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, and the Department of Defense are vetting the 25,000 members of the National Guard stationed in Washington, D.C., to ensure security during the January 20th inauguration. Christopher C. Miller, head of the Pentagon, declared that the review by the Department of Defense is a normal process and that, while we have no intelligence indicating an insider threat, we are leaving no stone unturned in securing the Capitol. The Pentagon thanked the FBI for its assistance in vetting members of the National Guard. The head of the National Guard in Washington, D.C., noted on the same day that National Guard members traveling to Washington, D.C. underwent background checks before leaving their states, so those soldiers, safeguards, and pilots would be eligible to receive a certificate for safeguard after passing the FBI's investigation. The inauguration of the new U.S. president will take place on January 20th. Unlike in the past, Washington is on high alert this year, with about 25,000 National Guard soldiers stationed at the Capital Region to secure the election process. U.S. Army Secretary Ryan McCarthy said on January 17th that the department is vetting all military personnel involved in the operation to clear possible insider threats. On Monday, personnel at the U.S. Capitol prepared for a tight rehearsal of the presidential inauguration. There were a large number of security personnel near the rehearsal site. That morning, there was a temporary emergency when fire and smoke was spotted in one direction near the Capitol, causing a temporary lockdown of the Capitol. Rehearsal attendees were then ushered to the Capitol Visitor Center for shelter. Later, police officers identified the fire as coming from a gas tank explosion in a homeless camp. The impact was minimal and the state of emergency was lifted thereafter. Trump orders federal government to prioritize removing Chinese-made drones. President Donald Trump signed an executive order on January 18th requiring all government agencies to prioritize removing Chinese-made drones and to assess any security risks. In a White House statement, Trump said that certain unmanned aircraft systems, or UAS, manufactured by companies in adversary countries such as the People's Republic of China, People's Republic of Korea, and the Islamic Republic of Iran, pose a security risk to the federal government. To ensure that the UAS are owned, operated, and controlled by the federal government, and to secure the integrity of the U.S. infrastructure, and to maintain and expand America's domestic industrial base capabilities, he directed all federal agencies to prioritize removing UAS manufactured by these adversary nations and to report on security risk assessments. Just last month, the U.S. Department of Commerce blacklisted Shenzhen DJI Technology Company, the world's largest drone maker, along with dozens of other Chinese companies for trade sanctions. Last January, the U.S. Department of the Interior also announced that government units were prohibited from using Chinese-made drones except for emergency needs. In October, the Secretary of the Interior issued an updated order prohibiting the department from making new purchases of Chinese-made drones. Prior to this, nearly all of the more than 800 drones officially owned by the United States were either made in China or used Chinese-made parts. U.S. media reported that the U.S. side is concerned that Chinese-made drones with cameras, mapping technology, and infrared scanners could be used to collect sensitive data and send it back to Beijing, and that U.S. infrastructure could become the target of future cyber attacks. The Trump administration seems unaffected by the impending end of its term and has recently launched intensive sanctions against the Chinese Communist Party. On January 14th alone, 4 sanctions were issued against CCP companies, organizations, and individuals, including China National Offshore Oil Corporation, cell phone maker Xiaomi, Beijing Tianjiao, and Commercial Aircraft Corporation of China Limited. In addition, the U.S. government also blacklisted some Chinese Communist Party personnel associated with the South China Sea issue. On the 15th, the U.S. government imposed sanctions on 6 more Chinese and Hong Kong officials due to the Communist Party's use of state security laws to suppress people in Hong Kong. 6 officials, including Yo Chuan, head of the Communist Party's United Front Work Department, and Tam Yu Chung, former chairman of the Democratic Alliance for the Betterment and Progress of Hong Kong, and the Hong Kong delegate to the National People's Congress Standing Committee, are both on the sanctions list. Now back online, Parler CEO vows to uphold civil discourse. Parler, the social media platform that has been shut down for a week after being blocked by several U.S. tech giants, was suddenly relaunched on Sunday, January 17th, with Parler founder and president John Mates vowing to address any challenges before him and defend the voice of American citizens. Mates left a message on the platform after Parler's resurrection saying, "Hello world, is this thing on?" The message suggested that Parler had found another hosting service after Amazon stopped providing services for Parler. This comes after an unprecedented surge in the number of users of Parler, recognized as a free speech platform after many prominent conservatives had their comments censored by Twitter, Facebook, and other platforms. Mate says, "We plan to welcome all of you back soon. We will not let civil discourse perish. Now seems like the right time to remind you all, both lovers and haters, why we started this platform." Mates added, we believe privacy is paramount and free speech essential, especially on social media. Our aim has always been to provide a nonpartisan public square where individuals can enjoy and exercise their rights to both. Amazon stopped providing web services to Parler after the riots at the Capitol on January 6. Text messages between mates and Amazon representatives, cited by Parler in a court filing, suggest that Amazon was primarily concerned that Trump supporters might migrate to Parler after President Trump's Twitter account was blocked. Parler then filed a lawsuit demanding that Amazon restore its service, while stating that Amazon's termination was allegedly monopolistic. The lawsuit notes that Twitter is a major customer of Amazon's servers. Mates said earlier on January 17th that there was no indication that Amazon, Google, and Apple would pull their services before they were abruptly blocked. Mates told Fox News that in the days leading up to the suspension, Amazon, as usual, was basically saying, "Oh, I never saw any material problems. There's no issues." They played it off very nonchalantly. And so on the 8th and the 9th, we had no real indication that this was deadly serious. This concludes today's broadcast. Thank you for your time, and stay tuned for the next headline news.